The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy. Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Count it all joy. Charles is back online. The Equally Yoked Show. Get yoked for free. Back online. For free.
Welcome back to the broadcast. This is the Equally Yoked Show. Glad to have you join me today for another broadcast as we begin to break down some of the crazy political stuff, biblical stuff, however you want to pull it. There is so much to cover here. And I always say that. You guys already know there's so much to cover. Welcome, Dead Man Lives. God bless you. And thank you for being here as the one and only well, I wouldn't say one and only moderator because there is another moderator. His name is Zach, and he is not here. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at a few different things here. Just let some folks join in. Look, I honestly don't even think people are going to join in. You know why? You know why? Because YouTube is doing its little thing again. What do we got to do? What do we got to do about this, bro? What do we got any ideas? Throw it around. Let me know. What do we do, man? Do we charge the studios of YouTube, demand to be seen? No, not at all. We just keep doing this. Just keep fighting back. Keep doing this. Keep going. And we'll just keep defeating, or rather attempting to defeat the tech oligarchs. Deception. Major deception is happening. That is the title of this show. Why is that the title of the show? What in my mind? What in the right? Why? I don't know. I was hoping you'd be able to help me answer that. Deception. Massive, major deception is happening in this world, and we see it all the time. Especially with politics. Politics is full of deception, but lately we've been witnessing the deception, the conversation concerning UFOs, concerning AI. AI is a big one. AI is growing. The topic of AI is growing tremendously. More and more. AI is said to double every 6 months. And quite honestly, it seems like it's doubling every 3 months. Might even be a month. The speed, the capacity, the abilities. where Glenn Beck, as we were looking at in yesterday's show, a clip from Glenn Beck with Allie Beth Stuckey, he's talking about AI, AGI, where I believe this is the final stage, either what is it, SAI or AGI, something to that nature, where it's essentially the most advanced artificial intelligence that we could achieve. But again, it's all artificial, not real. It's created by humans, therefore it will never be greater than humans. And even if it displays characteristics of morality, even though it displays characteristics of humanity, this is all artificial. It's gathering data. It's gathering information based on the users, and it's able to spit back in a way, because it's gathering data from, who knows how many users the combined AI world has, from Grok, ChatGPT, from Gemini, Sora. Well, Sora is more, image video generation, but otherwise, all the data that is online that is available at the ready of the fingertips of AI in order to sift through data. And we're only looking to expand more to more. And I was just about to say it. You said it right. You took the words right out of my mouth. You say, I know every city around me for about 20 miles has signs saying no data centers. We're sort of living in this dystopian age where AI, and we've always seen this sort of in the background in Hollywood, right? In the background, we've seen drones operating with, utilizing some type of technology, soldiers, officers in these movies where they're utilizing AI and they're capturing the data of every civilian, their movement, their whereabouts. They're able to capture them at a moment's notice should they be flagged for any type of activity that is against the rules of the government. And people warned about this. As this began to grow and people began to feel increasingly worried about their privacy, we've seen the immediate effects after 9/11 where, people discussed this situation concerning the Patriot Act and said, they utilized this moment in order to implement these policies that they've been wanting to implement. And they found the perfect opportunity to do this. Thus, we have the Patriot Act that was born in order to spy on American citizens. And so these deals here that continue to be made within government, and you're also right. I wonder if this is I think this is nationwide. I do remember hearing this, but I thought it was only specifically in California. Maybe it's nationwide, where they want to force auto manufacturers to implement the system in order to be able to shut your car off when they want. And look, mark my words, if the Democrat Party was in power, or even if Biden or Kamala Harris, Tim Walz won the election, again, we dodged a bullet, we would have had the scenario. This would have already been implemented. The bill would have been signed. The executive order would have went through. And instead, we have people like Donald Trump, who actually is removing things, removing regulations, and even removing the start-stop button for cars. That's a big deal, I think. That's just my opinion. But Glenn Beck, and we're going back to this for a specific reason, because of the topic discussing deception, aliens, UFOs, AI, God, or the AI God. And he brings out a very specific point concerning Sam Altman, which we also covered on yesterday's broadcast, concerning if he believes in God, or where does morality, where ChatGPT will choose morality, how it does that, how it conducts these, outputs, who gets the final say. And so this clip that I'm going to play here in a moment, I think is very fascinating concerning this discussion. And then we've got a whole lot of other things that we can move through. And we'll see. We'll just play it by ear. We might be stuck on this for the rest of the video. I did say we'd be coming back to it. Otherwise, yeah, this world is in a place of, as Daniel calls it, and I think it's more relating to the knowledge of the scriptures, but as Daniel calls it, knowledge will increase. Many will run to and fro. There is a danger when humanity begins to seek to extend their abilities beyond what they physically can do by enhancements, by augmentation, transhumanism, where we begin to see people attempt to reach the heavens, just like we saw in the story in the Tower of Babel. I say story, but it's more like history of the early civilization of humanity attempting to be like God. In the scriptures, we have what is said here. Then God said, behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore, the Lord God sent him out of the garden. Actually, this is not even perfect scripture. Nothing wrong with that. But I'm actually talking concerning the Tower of Babel and the corruption that came upon the face of the earth, the land and the daughters that were born. Talk about the Nephilim. Talk about the flood. Talk about the moment leading up to the Tower of Babel. And so when we see this, that the whole earth had one language and the same words. One language and the same words. People migrated from the east. They found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone. And they basically said, come, let us build ourselves a city, a tower, with its top in the heavens. And thus, we had the building of the Tower of Babel. You can also translate heavens to sky. Not necessarily that they were going to ever reach heaven, the heaven that we think of when we hear that word. Not necessarily sky, but these were the words that they used in ancient times. There's no word for sky. But let's take a look at what's being said here concerning AI and the capabilities that it is enabling humanity to do when it comes to communication.
People like Sam Altman are not cautious. He wants the God.
Yeah.
Because he thinks, strangely, I think he thinks he can control it.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to control it. It's everything we would do is a baby gate. I've been in places where they have lots of babies.
Yeah.
I step over the baby gate.
Right.
It stops the babies. We're the babies in that scenario.
Right.
It will step over anything that we have tried.
Yeah.
We just have to be very, very careful.
Yeah. It really is just like the Garden of Eden when Satan say you can be like God. And Eve
Yes.
thought, well, I can just take a bite and that'll be it.
Yes.
It's never it.
And it's always the search for knowledge, which doesn't make the search for knowledge evil or wrong. Yeah. It just should come with a price tag. Be careful. When you are looking for knowledge, that's great. When you are looking to be like God, do not purchase that.
But what are the moral limits that someone like Sam Altman has? Because technology can't tell us what's right. It can take us from what's natural to what's possible, but only those of us who have moral limitations will say, but what's moral and what's good? Mm-hmm. Really, Silicon Valley is only asking what's possible and can we do it, not should we do it. And those of us asking, should we do it? I don't feel like I have enough power. I don't feel like Sam Altman's going to listen to me and say, okay, you can go that far, but no further than that. So what does it look like to try to rein in those powers and to harness them for good?
So I talked to somebody who is at that level. I've never shared this before, but somebody at that level said to me, I said, how do you stop this? And he said, well, the governments of the world. China wants control. America wants control. Okay. We want these things so we can increase our power and protect ourselves and have control.
Now, as I said, the scripture, I think, is very fascinating that they mentioned it. Let me go back here for a moment. It says that man has become like one of us. This is God saying, behold, man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever in that fallen state. That was obviously not God's plan. God's plan was to redeem humanity. And I think what they're discussing here concerning AI, concerning Sam Altman, talking about that he wants to, he believes that he can control God if he creates this so-called God, this object of worship. This gets into some serious territory. And as we sort of segue into the conversation a bit about God, this is Donald Trump. I think we must play this because of what was so spectacular about today was that there was a Bible reading that was that is being conducted where they will read the Bible from Genesis to Revelation, and Trump participated in the reading of 2 Chronicles 7:14, which discusses Second Chronicles 11 through 22. Those are the scriptures that he reads. But it's actually wild concerning the time that we're living in. Let's look at what the scripture he's reading here. And then we'll commentate on this. But stick with me. And look, share the show, like the show, and email me your thoughts, freedomequallyokeshow.com. Comment. We can discuss these matters further. Let's get this video out there. Let's push past these tech oligarchs who are blocking or shadow banning this channel. Maybe we can do it. Maybe we can push forward. So here we go.
Thus Solomon finished the house of the Lord and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's heart to make in the house of the Lord, and in his own house he prosperously effected. And the Lord appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heaven, that there be no rain, or if I command the locust to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, if my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes shall be open and my ears attent to the prayer that is made in this place. For now I have chosen and sanctified this house, that my name may be there forever, and my eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. And as for you, if you will walk before me, as David your father walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and shall observe my statutes and my judgments, then will I establish the throne of my kingdom according to as I have covenanted with David your father, saying, there shall not fail you as a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then will I pluck them up from the roots out of my land which I have given them, and this house which I have sanctified for my name will I cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among nations. And this house which is high shall be an astonishment to every one that passes by it, so that he shall say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? And it shall be answered, because they forsook the Lord God of their fathers, which brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other gods, and worshiped them and served them. Therefore has he brought all this evil upon them.
Quite interesting, the set of scriptures that he read. If you think about it, look, this has to deal with Israel first and foremost. This has to deal with Israel because of the scriptures and the context given. Solomon had just built the third temple and conducts a massive sacrifice of animals to the Lord. Over 100,000, beyond 100,000 is the number that is accounted as you see the amount of sacrifice that is conducted there. And what's fascinating is even the prophecy of what we've been talking about on this podcast also concerning the nation of Israel, because what people continually say, that the land of Israel and the people in Israel are not the folks, they're not, they don't belong there. This doesn't belong to them. Maybe it did, and they're sort of backtracking, but they said maybe it did, in history, in ancient history, but these Jews that are there today, they are just occupiers of that land. But what he read here, and it's just fascinating, again, the scriptures that he read in this time, it almost, and I'm not going to make a comparison to Jesus here, and I think people are going to go, wild on what I'm going to say in a moment, but otherwise, what he said also in one of the scriptures, that if they, it says, and shall observe my statutes and judgments, then I will establish the throne of thy kingdom according to all I have covenanted with David thy father, saying, there shall not fail thee a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I set before you, and shall go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will pluck them up by the roots out of my land, which I have given them, and this house, which I have sanctified for my name, will I cast out of my sight, and will make it a proverb and a byword among all the nations. Quite fascinating set of scriptures. And so the comparison that I'm making here, because of what just popped into my mind, but it's not a comparison of him and Jesus. But the moment that Jesus actually goes into the temple and he is teaching according to the customs of the time, and there was, the attendant gave him a scroll, and the scroll that it was on was the book of Isaiah, and he reads basically the first two verses, but stops in the middle of the second verse. And so this, as they're going through and reading from Genesis to Revelation, this is the passage that happens to land with Donald Trump concerning this. And so they did it from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. was they over 500 different speakers, celebrities, regular people, I believe, at the America of the Bible Institute that conducted this reading. And this is the passage that happened to land on Donald Trump, whether he got a say in picking this or not, but it deals with the nation of Israel, not necessarily the nation of America, of course, because America is not in the Bible. However, it still applies to America in the sense that if we turn to God, there will be blessing. And so obviously all that brings out a big debate concerning that. But I think it's just fascinating as we continue on this sort of trail here, because of where this nation and the trajectory of this nation is really involving now. I think we're moving into this next year, or the rest of the year, really focusing on home. Of course, we're wrapping up what's happening in Iran, and we need to wrap it up quickly. But I believe that we're wrapping it up quite fast. And concerning that, there's been obviously a lot of news. Iran is defying the orders that are given, and ceasefire has been broken. The Strait of Hormuz issues, there's so much to that. But now what we want to do is focus on the homeland, of course. So they're talking about taxpayer fraud. We're talking about many other different aspects of fraud, where J.D. Vance is now leading the head of the fraud sort of department here. And we're seeing a lot of it, especially with Ilhan Omar, and the new numbers from Ilhan Omar. It literally so crazy. Let's take a look at what's happening and really in all the day-to-day politics, which again can be very exhausting. Just look at, can make you feel like nothing is going to change, nothing is going to happen. And for us Americans, me and you, if indeed you are in America, we need to take action violently, We have ways to contact our representatives, our members in Congress, the numbers that are public. There is so much that we can do just on the ground level. And in whatever, sphere of influence that we have, I mean, my little sphere of influence is not much. If I can reach anybody, I will try to reach even the one. But yeah, and yes, by the way, Assad, we're going to be taking a look at that in a moment if you just stick with us concerning the statue of Jesus. Obviously, that's wrong, but we're going to be looking at that in a moment. But let's see what is happening on the front in America.
We will stop the radical left Democrats' rampant looting of your taxpayer dollars, and we will win the war on fraud, which is being headed by our great Vice President, J.D. Vance. We're going to win it. We're going to win it. I said, J.D., I want that job. I want that job. It's so bad. You look at Minnesota, you look at California, you look at some of these states, it's so bad. Maine, believe it or not, is terrible. Maine, who would think Maine so bad? But we're right on their ass. We're right on their ass. And we will pass the great health care plan. We call it the great health care plan, to stop all payments to big insurance companies and give the money. What we want to do is this. We want the insurance companies to be cut out. We want our government not to pay trillions of dollars to insurance companies, to pay that same amount of money directly to the people, directly, and you go out and buy your own health care. And everybody likes it. The problem is the Democrats don't like it because they're owned by the insurance companies. So they vote no, no. But we're going to get it done one way or the other. We will make most favored nation discounts on drug prices permanent law. So I got you drug reductions on prescription drugs, most favored nation. You know what that means? That means we pay the lowest of any nation in the world. When I got into office, we paid the highest of any nation in the world. I got the nations to agree because I threatened them with tariffs if they don't do it. And I got the insurance companies, I got the drug companies to do it. So your drug prices are going to be reduced by 60, 70, 80, and in some cases even more than 80%. Nobody has ever done that.
Now, we're also witnessing what's happening in New York with Zohran Mamdani and the promises that he made to his New Yorkers, his fellow New Yorkers, and a lot of them are seriously, I think we can say definitively, regretting putting this man into power. And the type of power that he is able and capable of utilizing is now swaying. And Kathy Hochul is, there's a word I'm looking for, has fallen to his prey. Zohran Mamdani is a liar. And he's increasing taxes on everyday people to afford his agenda, his affordability agenda, mind you, but he's got to take from people who are paying the taxes. It's not affordable. It's really not affordable. But Ilhan Omar, we're going to go to cover her financial disclosures for a moment here. But the conversation surrounding her income, or rather her net worth, from 6 to 30 million, people were saying 15 to 30 million because of the valuations of her companies, her husband's companies. And now she's saying, oh, look, it was actually an accounting error. Blame my accountant, not me, nothing that has to do with me. Just blame my accountant concerning this. I was actually making, 35 to 95,000, which is way less. I'm not sure if this is discounting the debt that supposedly she has, but if she makes all that money, there'd be no debt to her name. But otherwise, isn't a sitting congresswoman to be paid $167,000? I believe that's the standard for Congress, men and women. That's a lot of money, especially if you're living in D.C., wherever she's. Nobody even knows where she's living. I don't know. Maybe people know.
Ilhan Omar now blaming a, quote, accounting discrepancy for errors in a financial disclosure that listed her and her husband's net worth at up to $30 million. Her amended filing now shows a massive shrinkage of shared assets of between $18,000 and $95,000, according to the Wall Street Journal. Congresswoman's spokesperson says this proves that she is not a millionaire. Let's welcome certified public accountant Dan.
It proves nothing. It proves that she's just trying to shift the blame here so she can cover her own rear. Made a mistake with three and a couple of extra zeros. How do these mistakes even, like, that's a massive mistake. I mean, maybe we'd be talking a couple $1,000 extra, not a couple million extra. That's a big fat jump. That's a massive jump. But we're looking at also California. What's happening? Well, actually, let's go over to Ilhan Omar for a second, because somebody actually recorded. This is a journalist who was asking her about the corrections. And her response is actually kind of wild. For a sitting congresswoman, this is your response concerning the fraud? Don't you want to give people some, sense of, I don't know, some ease, some sense of, I don't know, what do we make of this? But this is her response.
Congresswoman Omar, the last time I spoke to you, you said that I was stupid for asking you about your financial disclosure, but there's some discrepancies on there. Would you like to explain that? How did you make such a big mistake on it?
Absolutely, you're stupid for asking me anything.
I am?
Yes.
Well, what about the American people who are wondering how you made such a big
I have
mistake?
explained to the American people.
What's the explanation?
I have given them the explanation.
Do you want to tell our viewers? Because they're
I don't want to
looking
tell you jack shit.
Oh.
How about that?
Okay.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Congresswoman Omar.
Wow. I don't want to tell you jack shat. That's what she says. I mean, not in that way, but, That's her response. We know who elected her. Americans didn't elect her. It was the folks over there that came from Somalia down here to Minnesota who voted her into that position. Boosted her numbers, got her elected. I mean, either that or Americans there in Minnesota. I mean, you got who did that? Who did that? That's bad. But California, Betty Yee drops out of the California governor race. Amen to that. That is a Democrat who is running for the gubernatorial position. And we're seeing leads by Steve Hilton, of course, Chad Bianco in the Republican positions. And so obviously we are on the heels of Eric Swalwell dropping out. Betty Yee goes on to actually talk about Katie Porter and calling her really a disgrace for her actions when she walked out of an interview and basically called her a coward. She's set to announce some type of, endorsement here in the next couple of days, whether she will or whether she won't. But good. She's out. She's got a few more to focus on. I think really at the top of the Democrat Party that may move forward as the top in the primaries is Tom Steyer. This guy, socialist, communistic, hard policies. This billionaire says he considers himself a billionaire, and you have Disney who's actually running these ads, which is kind of funny. I don't think it's Disney paying them. Obviously, I think it's ads paying Disney to run them on Disney Plus. I think that's quite fascinating and quite interesting that it's not Democrat leaning, that they would approve something like this about a Democrat, somebody who's leading the polls in the Democrat race. But still, Steve Hilton, by the grace of God, is leading the polls in California.
Party insiders is now dropping out of the race for governor. We're just getting that breaking news in here moments ago. So remember the California gubernatorial debate Wednesday night here on News Nation, also on thehill.com. Betty Yee out of that race. The poll, I have it on the telestrator that Nexstar did in the race for California governor, shows a Republican in the top spot. Okay, so we're going to talk about Steve Hilton in a moment. The top Democrat, Steyer. More and more Democrats now seem to be talking about Becerra, which is interesting. And then if you look at the average of the polls, it is Hilton again, who's up over Steyer, 18-15. That's from DDHQ. Here is Hilton, who used to work for David Cameron in the UK and used to have a show on Fox, appearing on The Hill Sunday. Take a listen.
Why would you expect a different result if you keep voting the same way? The answer for California is not another Democrat. It's a completely new direction, and that's what I'm offering.
All right. So a Republican making the argument in California. What should we know about this race?
Well, look, you have Steve Hilton essentially trying to, make this as localized an election as possible in California and really talk about how change is needed in a state that has been governed by Democrats for quite some time now, a state that is a majority Democratic state. But you have Democrats like Tom Steyer, for example, really trying to nationalize this election, as many of the other midterms will be nationalized in terms of making this about President Trump. And we know that Steve Hilton himself is an ally of President Trump. President Trump endorsed him in this race. So that's something to know about Steve Hilton. But what's interesting on the Democratic side, though, is Tom Steyer. Before you saw Eric Swalwell, before he suspended his campaign and resigned from Congress over allegations of sexual misconduct, he essentially was drawing, I think, a broad coalition of progressives, the labor movement, as well as the business community. And I think you're starting to see.
Look, this race is coming very close, and I think Tom Steyer is actually, and he's I guess a sort of the potential threat to possibly winning the California, if California wants to continue to move forward with Democrats. Now, what's actually interesting is that you've seen a top supporter of the Democrat Party actually renounce his, I don't even know what you would call it, renounce his democraticness. I don't know. But he actually says that he's no longer a Democrat. And I want to see if I can actually find it, because I did want to, here it is. Eric Swalwell, campaign donor. And what he says is quite fascinating. Quite a bit of a long interview, but he goes really, he doesn't let down on Eric Swalwell. And his own words, he says that I am not a Democrat anymore. I'm no longer a Democrat. I think he says he's a libertarian Republican. I think that's something of the words that he says. Take a look. This is what happens. You keep on electing Democrats into power in California when they're passing bills that are, bills that are being dubbed the Stop Nick Shirley Act, bills that are harming Californians, bills, especially even the governor attacking churches and seeking to steal the tithes of churches, an ongoing lawsuit. I mean, this stuff is crazy, what's happening in California, especially under governors, Democratic governors, Democratic leaders. This all needs to change. It needs to be a complete flip on its head so we can really make the state golden again. And I really want to start to focus on California more and more. Let's take a look at this.
Happened since Friday.
I'm look, I live in the world of telling the truth, and I'm disappointed. I'm shocked. I'm beyond disappointed. Beyond disappointed. We expect people in Congress and in our political world to tell the truth. And, our people, before we endorsed him, asked him numerous times, is there anything we need to know? And he lied to us. All right? You don't lie about stuff like this. You don't lie. You don't do it, right?
You guys have been close friends for...
I've known him for the longest time. And I'm going to tell you something that I've never seen him out with women. When he stayed here occasionally, he's never brought a woman here.
Did you suspect this at all?
No! I was blown away. Like, blown away. Like, there's no way I would have endorsed him.
Yeah.
It's such a shock. And you know what? With a lot of the phone calls I've had over the last couple days, if you want to be a really good investigative journalist, start investigating everyone in Congress. Because it's a cesspool of the S word.
There's some more of this going on.
I got to be careful, FCC with you.
Yeah.
And start investigating it. Clean it up. We are customers of the United States. We deserve equal or greater value for our tax dollars. All right? And is it fair enough?
Yeah. I was going to say, fair to say you're mad. I mean...
Mad?
Yeah.
I am no longer a Democrat. I'm now a libertarian Republican. Because that's what a blue dog Democrat used to be.
This is what happens. This is what happens when you keep voting Democrat. At some point, things have to change. And I think that's what California, not even California, I think that's what America saw back in 2024. They've had enough of Joe Biden, an incompetent leader who could not lead America could not lead America. I think we need to, just for a moment, look at this clip of our leader.
Mr. President, you are the oldest president ever.
Pretty good shape, huh?
Which leads to my next question. You are more aware of this than anyone. Some people ask whether you are fit for the job. And when you hear that, I wonder what you think.
Watch me. I mean, honest to God, that's all I think. Watch me. If you think I don't have the energy level or the mental acuity, then that's one thing. It's another thing of just watch and keep my schedule. Do what I'm doing. I think that, I don't, when I sit down with our NATO allies and keep them together, I don't have them saying, wait a minute, how old are you? What did they say? It's a matter of, that old expression, the proof of the pudding's in the eating. I mean, I respect the fact that people would say, you're old. But I think it relates to how much energy you have and whether or not the job you're doing is one consistent with what any person of any age would be able to do.
How would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look, I have trouble even saying to myself, my own head, the number of years. I no more think of myself as being as old as I am than fly. I mean, it's just not, I haven't observed anything in terms of, there's not things I don't do now that I did before, whether it's physical or mental or anything else.
What does that even mean? Does he have the mental acuity of a fly? I mean, golly, what does that even mean? What does that, I don't know. I'm at a loss for words here. Well, we had Democrats. We had, what's his name? Gavin Newsom. Saying that he missed Barack Obama. A competent president posted a photo of him. And a few other Democrats, which I think is quite interesting, that they all said that they missed competent president, but they completely renounced Joe Biden. And so the deception that we were talking about at the top of the show, which I found very interesting, which concerning a discussion with Glenn Beck and Allie Beth Stuckey, is the conversations concerning AI and Sam Altman, where Glenn Beck mentions that he believes, you know what, let me just play the clip for you because I think this is going to be helpful to sort of kick off the discussion. But we're looking at deception throughout politics, of course, politics and the scriptures.
If they said today, hey, we just spotted a spaceship, you know, just on the other side of Uranus, and it's coming in, it'll be a few months. Let's build a welcoming committee.
He's bringing this analogy
build a welcoming committee
with the discussion of AI.
Say, should we also not prepare in case they're hostile?
Not
because
aliens.
We don't know how they think. We don't know anything about them, and they're obviously way above us. So let's be cautious. People like Sam Altman are not cautious. He wants the God.
Yeah.
Because he thinks, strangely, I think he thinks he can control it.
Yeah.
You're never going to be able to control it. It's everything we would do is a baby gate. I've been in places where they have lots of babies.
Yeah.
I step over the baby gate.
Right.
It stops the babies. We're the babies in that scenario. Right. It will stop. It will
and
step
so
over.
Why I bring up this in the first place is because of the discussion concerning morality and AI. Like, where does it stop? Who gives the final say? We're also talking about the fraud that is happening in California and New York. The fraud that is so just embedded in taking from the taxpayer money and using it to benefit themselves. The deception concerning the UFOs, aliens, what the scriptures say concerning this. So I appreciate your question, by the way, asking about what the deception is. The deception lies within politics, of course, and where we are looking at the discussion, the rampant discussion that is growing more and more concerning AI, concerning aliens, concerning UFOs, concerning files that are going to be, released soon. Congresswomen saying, and congressmen and women saying, look, these things are real. These things are very real. Read the book of Enoch. That's what they're saying. They're talking about, well, I wouldn't be so concerned that this is, demonic beings, but this is stuff that is, if you've seen it, it's just out of this world. Okay, there's a lot of discussions, even J.D. Vance saying, look, I believe they're demons. That's what J.D. Vance is saying. So there's a sort of mixed bag here as to what these are. Obviously, J.D. Vance holding a specific point of view. But the reality concerning and where we are today and the deception of what's happening, under our, right under our noses in our own states, the deception of where these lawmakers are hiding the taxpayer dollars. And they say that they're getting to work in rebuilding the states. They're getting to work in fixing the potholes. It's always about the homelessness. It's always about the potholes. It's always about, making things better. But nothing actually ever gets done. It's deception. It's a tactic in order to get them elected. And then when they finally get elected under their moderate point of views, under their moderate position, their so-called moderate state or stance, they go all in. Left, Democrat, hard, socialistic. Zoran Mamdani is actually the first that we've seen in a while that was very, blunt about his position, but even went harder after he was elected officially, after he took office, after he assumed that role as mayor. He went even harder. Virginia governor is another prime example. 51 new taxes implemented right away. There's no affordability in any of their agendas, although they tout affordability. And then, of course, some more deception. More deception concerning what has happened in not only with the Vatican and stuff that is happening there, this is also an incredible incident that I wouldn't even say incident. This is they're deeming an incident, but then we're going to get through a little bit more of the details of what the IDF said concerning this. So let's go through this a little bit further. But the IDF issued a statement here because this is a soldier who was smashing in the head of a Jesus statue, defaming this statue here. And look, as true biblical Christians, we know I think we all know how we feel about statues. We shouldn't be erecting statues of what we believe God looked like. Right? Christ is not on the cross anymore. These depictions of Christ on the cross is not accurate. He's not on the cross, nor is he in the grave. An empty cross, sure, I think that's fine. He's not there. But he's not on the cross. Not anymore. But here, one of the members of the IDF says that the IDF is currently examining the reliability of the photograph, and if this is indeed real, recent picture, these actions do not align with the IDF's values and the behavior expected by the IDF soldiers. Now, what is going to be saying, what social media is going to be saying about the IDF is, look, this is who they are. This is how cruel they are. But the singular actions of a particular person is going to sort of ruin the whole camp, per se. But the reality of this is the person that conducted this and what is to be done about this was investigated, and we see some answers concerning this. So this is a little bit of a follow-up after. It says, following the completion of an initial examination regarding the photograph published earlier today of an IDF soldier harming a Christian symbol, it was determined that the photograph depicts an IDF soldier operating in southern Lebanon. The IDF views the incident with great severity and emphasizes that the soldier's conduct is wholly inconsistent with the values expected of its troops. The incident is being investigated by the Northern Command and is currently being addressed through the chain of command. Appropriate measures will be taken against those involved in accordance with the findings. Furthermore, the IDF is working to assist the community in restoring the statue to its place. The IDF is operating to dismantle the terrorist infrastructure established by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and has no intention of harming civilian infrastructure, including religious buildings or religious symbols. So the update that we see concerning this is what Benjamin Netanyahu says here. As a Jewish state, Israel cherishes and upholds the Jewish values of tolerance and mutual respect between Jews and worshippers of all faiths. All religions flourish in our land, and we view members of all faiths as equals in building our society and region. Yesterday, like the overwhelming majority of Israelis, I was stunned and saddened to learn that an IDF soldier damaged a Catholic religious icon in southern Lebanon. I condemn the action in the strongest terms. Military authorities are conducting a criminal probe of the matter and will take appropriate harsh disciplinary action against the offender. While Christians are being slaughtered in Syria and Lebanon by Muslims, the Christian population in Israel thrives unlike anywhere in the Middle East. Israel is the only country in the region that the Christian population is and standard of living is growing. Israel is the only place in the Middle East that adheres to the freedom of worship for all. We express regret for the incident and for any hurt this has caused to believers in Lebanon and around the world. The further update that we see concerning this is the IDF saying a short while ago, in full coordination with local community of Dabel in southern Lebanon, the damaged statue was replaced by IDF troops. The Northern Command worked to coordinate the replacement of the statue from the moment it received the report of the incident. The IDF expresses deep regret over the incident and is working to ensure that it does not happen again in the future. And here we have an upgraded statue. Possibly real gold, maybe. I'm not sure what this is, but it seems to be pretty refurbished quite well concerning what was there beforehand. So quite interesting, quite fascinating. Wow. Beautiful move. But otherwise, yes, There's nothing wrong with the source of an IDF. And for the folks that will go on talking about genocide and all that stuff, look, we're dealing with nations. They dealt with nations, especially what we're dealing with now. We're getting a taste of this as well. What are we getting a taste of? We're getting a taste of the Iranian regime that continues to use the media and lies, creating deception, creating propaganda in order for people to believe the lies. This is what Hamas did. This is what Hezbollah does. They do this. This is not a new tactic. And so with some of the other tweets that you saw, we're going to be covering those in the next broadcast, on another broadcast. So I hope that you join me for the next one. If you appreciated what you saw and like what you heard, please consider subscribing. You say a storm cloud is telling us that one of their raindrops didn't come from them. That's what they are telling us. You say like a gaudy AI cross. We don't know. This hasn't been sort of, I don't think you're the only ones thinking it's AI. And I don't really see, let's see here. I say literally not the same location, AI. We looked at the photo here. Charlie Kirk. See the same rocks, just the photos taken from a different angle. What's the deal here? Same rocks, same fence. Liar. People will try to do anything. And look, this is AI. The deception needs to stop. What needs to happen is to fix what was damaged. And hey, I mean, if they replaced it with this, something better than what was there before, cool. And we can still be, what's the word I'm looking for? We could still be critical of the government of Israel, despite their shortcomings and what people believe about Israel and what they believe concerning the land of Israel. For you to call for a river to the sea, Palestine will be free, nonsense. You're calling for genocide, but of a different people group. So you're very inconsistent, and your morality is not even aligned correctly. Doesn't make any sense. So if you're bothered, or if you're talking about that Israel conducted genocide in Gaza, let's focus on yourself for a moment and say, well, is what I am saying also genocide? It's the same as the pastors in Auschwitz that stayed silent while they heard the trains taking off, the screams of the Jewish people, where they stayed silent and the worshipers screamed louder, sang louder, I should say, so they wouldn't hear. You look at movements like the White Rose Resistance. And look, if you want to know more about that, Seth Gruber is a great resource concerning the White Rose Resistance. You say, how can we trust what we see? Killing of thousands is being allowed, but just being because they apologize for another killed doesn't make them regretful. Look, when it comes to online, everything that we see online, we always have to be very skeptical of what we see, especially images, especially videos. Even people that join this broadcast think that I'm AI. I'm not AI. This is all real. This is all reality. But otherwise, there's a lot of information that we're seeing concerning everything in the home front. We're going to be looking at more. We're going to be looking at all this in the coming days. We begin to see, hopefully, this war wrap up in Iran. And I appreciate your guys' comments. Please consider liking, sharing, subscribing. That's the best way you can support this show. Email me your final thoughts at freedom@equallyoakeshow.com. God bless you. And thanks for joining me. Appreciate it. See you in the next one.